Hello, my name is JD Kegley. I come to you from the University of South Florida, where I am a graduate student in my second year in the College Student Affairs Master of Education program at USF. During my time here, I do have an assistantship in the Department of Housing and Residential Education as an Assistant Residence Life Coordinator, which is a position that oversees the RAs in the buildings and as well as serves the students in the buildings. My first year here, I worked with a full-time professional, a Residence Life Coordinator, in a building of about 700 students. And my second year here, I will be by myself essentially, working with about 6 RAs in a building of approximately 270 students. So yeah, during my time here, we study student development theory and diversity, campus ecology, you name it, and a means to better understand how we can serve students in the student affairs division at whatever university we go off to work to. Now today, the section bridging the 4 generation gap to better help our students, I'm going to talk about 4 specific generations: the silents, the boomers, the Gen Xers, and the millennials. All 4 of these generations are definitely generations that are present in our higher education system, whether or not they are actually students or grandparents or parents of the students. So understanding each 4 generation and where they come from might help us as educators in higher education and within student affairs how to better help our students. The first generation I want to speak of is called the silent generation. They were born between 1927 to 1945. If you will notice, this is around the time of World War II, the Korean War, and that sort of thing. Something important to know about the silents: they could possibly be either grandparents or great-grandparents of our students here, and any university has a wide range of students ranging from 18-year-olds to mid-life adults coming back from the work field to pursue higher education. So it's important to understand all 4 of the generations if we are going to better understand our students. With the silents, they're very good mentors for younger people, so that is something we can focus on. And they also like to avoid vulgarity and off-color comments whenever they're in a training session. So if they were to be here today, they wouldn't appreciate if I were to make off color remarks and has absolutely nothing to do with the presentation. They are also very, very loyal to a company or very, very loyal to an institution. So they could be very, very loyal to the University of South Florida, whereas their grandchild or great-grandchild could possibly be struggling, and they can be a good mentor to them. The second generation that I want to speak about are the boomers, the baby boomers, essentially. They were born between 1946 to 1964. The baby boomers became about because of all the war. World War II, the Korean War, is a big, big boom in reproduction here in the United States. Something important about the baby boomers: they could also be parents or grandparents, probably not great-grandparents, parents or grandparents, and they are big on relationships. They love to build relationships. They love big families. They love being intimate with their child's development. They love to know exactly what's going on, and they're big, big thinkers. They are, some of the masterminds behind some of the decisions politically within the economic development of the country. And within teams, the baby boomers like to take control. They're very, very assertive and very, very very, very aggressive within teams, and that just comes about because of the way that they were brought up. They were brought up after World War II, where they basically had to fix a lot of the nation's problems. The next generation are the Gen Xers. They were born between 1965 to 1981. The Gen Xers are also commonly referred to as the MTV generation, music television generation, because of the visualization and technology being part of their actual generation. The Gen Xers, however, were the least supervised and nurtured of all the generations, the silents and the boomers. So that's important to think about whenever we talk about the next generation, which I'm going to go on to here in a minute. Gen Xers saw a lot of failures of institutions, government, political being the same thing, economic, to deliver promise to its citizens or its employees, etc., etc. So that's very, very important to consider whenever we're thinking about our students. Let me go on to the next generation, which is probably the most prevalent generation on higher education today. That would be the millennials. They were born from 1982 to present. I myself am a millennial, so I do understand the generation. They're obviously their parents being mostly Gen Xers, their parents being the least supervised, have made the millennials the most supervised and the most nurtured out of any of the other three generations that I have spoken of already. They're very, very close to their parents and very, very close to their instructors. They have a very, very close relationship, seek mentoring at any possible time, and they were most aware of 9/11, September 11th, so they're very socially responsible. They love being socially responsible and going out and volunteering their time to better their environment around them. They're very comfortable with older people. Again, this comes about from social responsibility. They like to, volunteer their time at nursing homes or anything like that. And something that psychologists fear about the millennial generation, because they are so nurtured and cared for by their parents, they are kind of pushed to be the best. They're the most wanted generation of children. They demand a prize whenever they achieve something, so they always want the best. Because of this, psychologists fear that millennials are pushed too far and too hard, and could have a higher risk for mental illness or anxiety and that sort of thing. So going over those four generations, I hope it will help you better understand where each generation is coming from. Obviously, the millennials are probably the biggest student population on campus, because there is still a tendency for higher education students to be within the 18 to 24-year-old range. Yes, there is a big movement for adult learners coming back into society, and that's important to understand the boomers or the Gen Xers specifically, just to know where they're coming from. So yeah, I hope that you have a better understanding of all the four generations that are still prevalent here in American society, and how each generation affects one another. How the silence affects the boomers, who are the big go-getters, how the boomers affect the Gen Xers, being the least nurtured because they fear that they're being overprotective, and then the Gen Xers influencing the millennials, knowing that they weren't nurtured or told what to do, afraid that the millennials are going to make the same mistakes that they have made. So I hope that the four generations are better understood, and that knowing how the four generations, affect one another could possibly help you out with your interactions with students. I thank you for your time, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.